Welcome back again, everyone. I'm touched that you would join us for our recap of UFC Fight Night 143 Booty Call on ESPN. It was a beautiful sight to behold. A lot of fun. Please enjoy mine and Matthew's recounting of the events. And we want to hear what you have to say, so let us know what you thought about the fights. Let us know what you thought about the stoppage. Let us know what you thought about Rachel Ostovich's outrageous body and the fact that that cameraman did his job right to keep the camera on her upturned booty for 3/4 of the fight. Enjoy, everyone.
Shut up now.
Picasso, I sue Casa. Let's come shabu. Let the party begin.
Your ears you keep, and I'll tell you why.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Take this quarter. Go downtown and have a rat gnaw that thing off your face. Good day to you, man.
I broke my back.
Look at that fucking bone.
You know, I don't want to sound like a queer or nothing, but I'm really gonna miss you guys when the show's over.
When we were in Big Bear, we went to this Pink Floyd cover band, and I know how that sounds when you're thinking like a cover band. It's like, oh Jesus, but these are like a legit tribute band. They're like the best Pink Floyd tribute band that's in circulation, I think. They're called Which One's Pink, and they were fucking mind blowing.
Really?
Yeah. They were so fucking good. And I didn't know what to expect because the opener was this god-awful band called Stun Grenade. So they had it was all these guys who were over 60, and they were just playing the most generic rock songs. It was like every time they started a song, it sounded like they were doing Cat Scratch Fever.
Oh God.
And, yeah, and the singer, he looked like a cross between Ted Nugent and Mugatu from Zoolander. And he just loved himself. Like, he was calling his guitar solos, like, check it out, guitar solo.
What?
Yeah.
You can't call your guitar
Oh,
solo. That's crazy.
It was fantastic. It was like there was so much comedic material in that.
I can't believe he
show.
called his own guitar solo.
Oh,
That's
just
ridiculous.
over and over again. He did like a guitar solo, like, and he kept every time they finished a song, he'd be like, "My bassist just told me we've been kind of putting out our D material here. We're gonna give you guys some A stuff right now."
Oh,
And then
my
he would
God.
start it off, and it'd be like some other fucking generic ass fucking oldie song. It was so fucking rough. And he's like, "Which One's Pink's coming up? You guys excited?" Well, yeah. He's all, in about 6 more songs,
Oh my God.
which equals about 12 more guitar solos. And their banner that they had, it was Stun Grenade, but they had a picture of a frag grenade on it. So it was like,
That sounds. I want to look these guys up now.
oh, dude, you should. They're absolutely. It's exhilarating. Oh man, but that was super fun. But I got sick up there. I was getting ready to go run, but I think I got a little altitude sickness.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing until like day 3. I was I'm not gonna lie. Day 1 I got super smashed, and day 2 I was hungover as fuck. So I didn't really drink much on day 2, and then day 3 I get up and I was just like, I think I'm gonna fucking die.
Yeah, that'll do it. I've never gotten altitude sickness, but I definitely can feel the difference when I'm up there.
Well, I guess sometimes your body has like an adjustment period, and like with the oxygen desaturation, You can get like flu-like symptoms from it. And yeah, I was just like bedridden. It was miserable. But I'm just kind of getting over that right now. So let's see. So welcome back, everyone. The show is on, and we're going to talk to you about the fights that just happened.
Yeah, we got a lot to cover.
Oh man, so much.
Before we start, I would like to point out I made the most delectable hot chocolate you've ever seen in your life. It's frothing right now.
It looks more like a pudding than a hot chocolate.
It's like a thick hot chocolate, but you know what I did? I used 1 cup of natural almond milk. No added gums, just pure almond milk. Then I got 1 square of unsweetened dark chocolate, organic, no added milk, nothing, just pure chocolate. And I melted that into the milk. And then I added in 3 dates and I blended it all together. I used the dates to sweeten it. Then I threw in some cinnamon, and then I threw in some collagen.
It sounds just absolutely flavorless. I can't imagine forcing myself to drink something.
Have you ever had a date? Do you know how much flavor dates have? They taste like caramels.
Sure, I'll bet they do.
They taste like caramels.
It tastes like a caramel, like in like a really, really old people kind of way.
No, you're talking about like Werther's. A date is pure. It's nature's caramel.
Nature's Werther's. Dates are nature's Werther's.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm ashamed that that's how we're starting this conversation.
I just figured the people should know if they want the world's greatest hot chocolate recipe.
Yeah. So the world's greatest hot chocolate recipe. Take notes, people. Make sure you stock up on your dates. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so UFC Fight Night 143. Some controversy. A night filled with strange happenings. What did you think about the stoppage?
It was too early. That's not even me just saying it from a biased perspective. I think he probably would have been finished regardless. I think there's probably like a 90% chance he was done.
Yeah.
But if it's a big title fight, they shouldn't stop it that early. But if it's any fight, you got to give the guys a chance to fight on.
Here's what I think. I don't think it has anything to do with the time. I don't think. I feel like early is a misleading word, but I know what you mean. Here's the thing. Dillashaw, excuse me. Dillashaw got hit. He got pushed. He lost his balance. He ended up underneath a world-class wrestler, an Olympic wrestler. He was eating shots, but he wasn't eating powerful shots. He was eating little arm punches the whole time, and they were landing clean. But Dillashaw was continuing to act appropriately. He was turning towards him. He was reaching for a single. He was what is defined as intelligently defending himself. Yeah. There was no call to stop the fight. There was no actual reason why the fight should have been stopped. He didn't even eat that many punches. He ate like 4 or 5 punches.
They weren't even like solid punch. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me when they stop a fight, and it's not like he was getting his head bounced off the cage.
Right.
You know, like he was still attempting to scramble. It drives me.
It didn't look good. It wasn't pretty. It looked like a guy who was just who has no. It looked like a guy who has no refereeing or like awareness of the like just some random guy on the couch was watching and was like, "Oh, stop the fight!"
Yeah, it's just like it just drives me fucking nuts when they do that because it really just taints. It ruins the whole thing, you know. Yeah. And now, even though they've fought already, technically, you almost feel like you haven't seen them fight. Like you need to see it again.
Sure. Yeah. I completely agree. That being said, Cejudo looked strong. Cejudo looked good. He was getting the better of it.
Yeah.
Up to that point. So there's no deny. I can't fault Cejudo in any sort of way. He did everything that he was supposed to do. He fought completely correctly.
Yeah.
Dillashaw looked a little. Dillashaw looked good too. He just looked a little weaker, a little less stable, and he got pushed around a little bit.
Yeah, and he's, I mean, actually, if you look at like Dillashaw has a loss to John Dodson in the Ultimate Fighter finale. John Dodson, who fights at, I think he fights at 125 right now. Very explosive guy, short, stocky.
Yeah, John Dodson has some real awesome highlight KOs. Like he's big power puncher.
Yeah, so before this fight, that did kind of play into my mind just a little bit. Like, even though it's kind of hard to judge off of that fight because that was a long time ago and it was pretty early in TJ's career.
It was definitely, it was pre, it was like, that was like pre his whole camp
right
and everything.
But so. What I was thinking was like maybe he would have, I don't know, maybe stylistically that's the style of fighter that he's going to run into problems with,
It's possible.
But he did fight John Lineker, who's about as short and stocky as they get, and he beat the shit out of him. So it's hard to say.
Yeah. Also, there's the factors of him going down in weight and everything. Well, how's that affecting his power and his stability?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's really, to be honest, that's about all I have to say about that fight. The fight only went fucking 10 seconds. So
yeah, it's not very rich with material. There's not really, other than the stoppage, there's not really a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to say about the stoppage. If you guys haven't seen it, you should check it out. Formulate your own opinions. Tell us what you think. I'm interested to hear what other people have to say, but my professional opinion on the subject is that fight should not have been stopped there because there was no actual justification for it. He was off balance and he was being kept off balance by a very, very, very successful wrestler. And
Cejudo, you could say, is the most successful wrestler in the history of MMA. Right? Yeah, because he's the only gold medalist, isn't he? I think everybody else was either like Olympic alternates or silver or bronze, or I think he's the only gold medalist.
I believe he's the only gold medalist. They do make a big deal out of it every time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that.
Yeah.
And then that Greg Hardy main event.
I was just gonna say,
Christ.
First of all, what a pile of dog shit! Like,
shame on you, UFC. What are you doing? You're taking it too far now.
Yeah, like he's a big, strong, athletic guy. Athletic might be a little bit of a stretch. He's big and he's strong.
Well,
but he came out swinging like crazy, but like a guy who never actually learned how to throw a punch. He was like pushing and leaning into his shots. He was wasting so much energy, and he gassed himself out. And like
this whole thing, this whole problem, this all started when they signed Brock Lesnar. Now, when they signed Brock Lesnar, it was fine because Brock Lesnar was legit. He was a former NCAA.
He had real
credentials. He had a background in a high level combat sport.
Right. And he was.
They signed him early.
He was an Olympic prospect too.
Yeah,
that was the thing. He didn't go.
He didn't go because he wanted to make money.
Yeah, he wanted to make money. And he went to WWE, and
right. But that's when this whole thing that's going on now started. It started with that, and then you cut to 10 years later or whatever it is, and then they signed CM Punk, and now it's like, all right, we've talked about this before, but it's just stupid.
Well, remember when they did the heavyweight season of the Ultimate Fighter for the first time?
Yeah,
it was like basically the whole roster was ex-NFL.
So sorry, I skipped over that.
Yeah,
that was another layer of that.
Yeah, they were just like any football players we can get. And we got Kimbo Slice, Roy Nelson, and a whole staff of football players.
With Kimbo, at least with Kimbo, he at least he was fighting. He still showed that he could at least fight competently,
relatively competently. He wasn't fighting in the caliber of a trained expert in fighting, and he didn't have discipline, but he had practice.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Kimbo Slice looked 10 times better than Greg Hardy fucking did.
He did. Kimbo Slice actually knows how to throw a punch, and he knows how to God rest. Anyway, I know. Poor Kimbo. I don't think Kimbo's a bad guy. I didn't like that he got so much money for being a worse fighter than everybody else because he got popular on fucking YouTube. Like,
you almost fought his son.
I was like this close to fighting his son. Did you see the guy who beat his son?
What's that?
Did you see the guy who beat his son?
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah,
that's what I told
both
everybody.
of those guys up at the same time.
I was talking to a few people about that.
The commentary was hysterical. They're like, his stepdad is a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
God.
God.
I was telling people about that. I was like, I was talking to people and I was like, yeah, that they, Keith almost fought his son. And they were like, yeah, how do you think it would have went down? I was like, dude, Keith would have fucking killed him. It's like, I mean, honestly, like he just, hey, good for him. His dad was a fighter and now he's, making his living kind of following in the same path.
Right.
But, let's not even talk about it.
I know. We're going into a rabbit hole here, but yeah. So back on the Greg Hardy fight, if you haven't seen it, it was basically Greg Hardy came out really aggressive. Alan Crowder, another guy I don't know that well, he showed a lot more just overall discipline as a fighter. He showed more rounded skills with the takedown attempts. I think he was successful a couple times in taking him down, actually. And
he was, and he would have just continued to be more successful because Hardy was gassed.
Well,
Hardy
once
was so gassed out.
Yeah, once excuse me. Once they got towards the end of the fight, Greg Hardy could barely move, and Crowder was in his face. He was like slapping himself and yelling at him, like, And
this is when you see something like this, it's a fundamental difference in the type of conditioning it takes to be a high-level mixed martial artist or a high-level football player or any other type of athlete. Because in football, it's like a sprint. You have short bursts of energy, and then you have time to recover in between.
Yeah, like long periods of time to recover.
Exactly.
And even in action, there's so many people playing that you can
exactly
meet the pressure and go.
Yeah, and what people don't seem to understand that. Okay, yeah, you can be really explosive and really athletic, but actually, sometimes in MMA, that can be to your detriment. Because if you're too explosive and you're too athletic, your gas tank is going to go quick. And there's examples of guys who are naturally that way and have learned how to kind of just become experts in energy economy. And they've gotten better at it over time. Like Tyrone Woodley, to me, is the best example. He used to always blow his wad early. He would gas out by like the, midway through the second round. And now he's great. His fights have gotten, a little less exciting. But now he's great at conserving energy. People have this misconception that they'll see a guy who's muscular and they'll go, oh, they're going to gas, they're muscular. And it's like, no, not necessarily. They just, if they have an understanding of when to put their foot on the pedal and go and when to pull it back, they can conserve that energy. Like Sean Shirk, it's another example. Like he was he looked like a little meathead, but he had excellent conditioning.
Right.
But he probably also had a really good understanding of his body's capability and,
Well, I love the term that you use, the economy of your energy. And I learned about that in wrestling. You have to learn where you can take breaks. You have to learn like what places and times you can stop and recover and let your body get back to where you can use it at full capacity. Because, make no mistake, this is a high intensity sport. You're going to need everything that you've got when you use it. So there are no real easy times to just be like 50% here. You have to find a spot where you can recharge and then get back into the fucking mix.
Yeah, and the thing with Greg Hardy is he just looked like somebody who hasn't even come close to mastering that aspect of it.
He's only had 6 fights total. And that's like a total like 2 minutes of fight time too. All of his fights were like in the first minute.
Yeah, that was his first real. And did you see too? There was a lot of people. Like I heard, I think it was Ray Longo who was saying this, but they were saying that they feel like a lot of people feel like he did that knee on purpose. That he knew the rules, but he knew he was gassing. He didn't want to get embarrassed in front of the world, so he just said "fuck it" and threw the illegal knee. And they were kind of analyzing the way he was reacting to it in the post-fight call, and they were saying that it just came off as very insincere.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but I don't know. Far be it from me to say what someone did or didn't do intentionally. It looked intentional,
right?
It didn't. It had no sign of like, oh, he looked like he was getting up. Like, no, he was down. He was completely down. He was just staying there, and he just came winging from the side. Boom, knee.
It did look intentional, and I think that in any other scenario, especially if it's as new of a fighter as Greg Hardy, people would give him the benefit of the doubt. But when you have a massive domestic violence charge on your record for beating up your ex-girlfriend, she has like pictures of bruises and stuff to prove it, people probably aren't gonna believe you.
They're just not gonna be sympathetic.
No.
Like, you know what? I think you're due for a little bit of judgment here, sir. So
yeah.
Also, I mean, with a guy who is as inexperienced as Greg Hardy, you're messing around in slippery slopes here. These are dangerous waters to be playing the game with down knees.
Well, so 100%.
Yeah, and honestly, I would advise a fighter with his level of experience to do. I would say don't fuck around with it, because you're probably going to fuck up. Your judgment can't be trusted here.
And and really, at the end of the day, who is at fault? It's the UFC, because they're the one who
put him in there,
dude, in the fight.
Yeah,
how stupid. Put this guy on fucking. Why would you put him in the main event? Put him on
early prelims.
Sports 1 on the early prelims. Like, why would you have him in the main event, the co-main event? It's so incredibly dumb.
Yeah. But Alan Crowder looked like a decent fighter. I don't see him fighting for the title anytime soon. But he definitely looked like a competent fighter. We could see him on some prelims for a while, I'm sure, having some success.
Why would they do that? And I think in a lot of ways, it's almost like with these the UFC is cursed with these big debut cards, because the same thing happened with the Fox card, if you remember.
I don't. What happened on the Fox card?
Ended in like a second, and it was very kind of, even though it ended in a knockout, it felt almost kind of uneventful,
Right.
With Kane and JDS.
Oh yeah. Well, that was a pretty momentous moment. Did you lose me?
Well, damn it.
All right, we're recording again.
Okay.
A little like we lost each other for a moment. I was so scared.
So it's almost like UFC is cursed with these with some of these cards, because it was very, very reminiscent of that Fox card to me, where they had Kane versus JDS, and I think they thought that Kane was just going to come in and he was going to be like the new Mexican superstar, and then he gets knocked out in like 30 seconds.
Another Brazilian beating up somebody else.
You know what they would have, if they were smart, you know what they would have done? Fucking throw Donald Cerrone in the co-main. They should have put that fight in the co-main.
That fight should have been co-main. That was a fucking dope fight too.
Because you know what you're getting with Donald Cerrone.
Right.
He might get his ass kicked, but he also might kick somebody. You're going to get an exciting fight. He's never been in a boring fight.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting one way or another. Like,
exactly.
He wins or loses, and man, I loved the emotion in that fight. I loved how like the excitement, because it was just like he didn't like this guy. This guy was coming out talking shit,
That was intense
what was the
because
kid's
that kid
name?
was talking some mad shit.
Well, he was just real like over the hill. Like he
Yeah.
fucking.
And you know, one thing is I actually I hate to admit it, going into that fight, I had actually picked that kid to win.
Really?
I thought he was going to beat him because I had saw who did he fight prior to this? I think is the fight I had seen him in before this. It was him versus
Alex Hernandez. That's who it is.
Yeah, Alex Hernandez. But the fight I saw him in before this, I think he knocked out Dariush.
Okay.
And he's knocked out Dariush quick. He just looked like a super physical kid. And you know, Donald Cerrone in the past has kind of sometimes he'll let that trash talking get to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, you know, maybe, I don't know. I thought the kid was going to take it. And then.
Well, Donald Cerrone seems to be on he seems to be hitting that like that later end of his career stride that you see fighters do sometimes, like how Lawler and
like, I agree.
But I don't know, dude. I'm just saying.
I agree, but I feel like Donald Cerrone's had like 5 of those because he fights so much.
Yeah.
Donald Cerrone is like notorious for putting a win streak together and then he loses 1 or 2 and then he puts together another 3 or 4 fight win streak.
Right.
And he loses 1 or 2. You know?
Right. Well, yeah, Donald Cerrone is historically he's like the best guy with a wishy-washy record. Like he's like the best guy who never maintains a win streak.
No, you're probably right. And he now he has the most finishes in UFC history. He passed Anderson Silva.
Yeah. I think he's got like the most finishes and I think the most wins, right? Or is it?
I think so. Yeah.
Most wins and most finishes. And he I don't know. I hate to attribute this to anything like sentimental or anything, but he seems like he got his head right, and he keeps talking about his fucking baby. And
I know
the way he's been fighting, he looks really focused.
I saw that too.
He has like a very, very focused mentality in all of it in his recent fights. Just like really the last 2, this one and the I can't.
Did he fight? Yeah. Why am I'm forgetting it too? Mike Perry.
Mike Perry. So he just fought Mike Perry, and he just had like, I think he looks like he's fucking going for it right now. And it's early to say in this streak, but he's looking serious, and I'd like to see Cerrone go for one of these like. I'm middle-aged, my career's almost over, and I'm gonna go for a fucking rampage runs right now.
I think the rumor is they're talking about doing him versus McGregor, and I think if they can put together him versus McGregor, that would give him a legit, put him in the picture for a legit title contention.
Is your phone ringing?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was. Yeah. That would put him in the picture for a legit title contention, and it would be cool to see him. Yeah, it would be cool to see him make like one final run at the end of his career, and finally pull it off.
Well, I love that. I love that when fighters do that. Like I love seeing that, like that last spark, because we all know there's a time limit on this sport. You can't fight forever. Your body gets old, and you can't keep up with the younger, fresher athletes. But at the same time, you reach a point where you may not be physically the most imposing that you have been yourself, but the accumulation of knowledge and instincts and experience, you get hardened at this, mentally at a certain point where you're just better at fighting. While your body's still competent enough to perform, you may be the best fighter that you've ever been.
Yeah. and then
you see guys,
then you go beyond that and you enter a dark place. And that is the place that Fedor Emelianenko currently.
Let's not talk about Fedor at all. Let's just leave that.
It's a perfect segue.
Just remember him. I don't want to talk about it.
That might have been one of the greatest segues in podcast history.
All right. So what happened in Bellator? We still have a lot of fights to talk about in the UFC, though. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I've just been jonesing to get at this one.
All right, go get it out. I'll just sit back.
Well, I mean, what more can you say? fuck, there's really no way to put it other than Fedor's chin is just dusted. And let's not take any credit away from Bader. Bader has really been looking good. Like, he's just looked better and better. He actually has
ever since Tito Ortiz does.
I know we talked about the Tito,
but I had to throw something back at him since you're talking about Fedor's.
But Bader would I kind of would like to see that rematch because I hate Tito and I think Bader would just destroy Tito right now. I mean, it wouldn't even.
Of course he would. Are you shitting me?
And I would just love to see Tito get knocked out again.
When that fight happened in the first place, Bader would have fucking destroyed Tito. He just happened to not.
Yeah, he just had a bad night.
Yeah, it was a bad night.
But it would be interesting to see now, considering like Bader has what could be considered. Not obviously, look, he's not like a top level K1 kickboxer or nothing, but he has some solid hands on him now. Like, he hits hard.
He always hit hard. Like,
he always hit hard, but now he's got some technique behind it.
Exactly. And that is just fucking. That's what's
even though Fedor, his chin is gone. That was a pretty fucking hard punch that he hit him with. It was a nice little kind of.
It was ugly, man.
Jab like slash hook. It was an interesting punch, and he just swooped in and just fucking cracked him.
Yeah, it was.
Fedor's got to hang him up.
Yeah, Fedor should have hung him up like after.
Yeah. I mean, he was done after. He was able to come back and get some wins, but he was actually done after the probably that Strike Force run.
Yeah, I think he was honestly he was well past his prime during the Strike Force run. He was having hard fights with people that he should have just been plowing through.
Right.
And he still, I'm happy he stuck around. It was nice to see some of his his performances. I always like to see Fedor fight, but
I agree. It was really cool. I'm happy he stuck around because it was really cool to see his it was cool to see the way he was able to burn through that heavyweight tournament. That was cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
He went in there and he he knocked out Mir, beat up Chael Sonnen. Like, it was cool to see some glimpses.
And that's another thing to mention. Like Mir is still a competent level heavyweight. Mir is not out of the game, in my opinion, and Fedor still beat him.
Right.
So that's fucking knocked him out. That wasn't the best performance by Mir. Mir didn't fight the fight that he should have, but that's still, that's still saying something. Like,
I mean, hey, Fedor can still hit hard. Fedor can timing. Like, there's still plenty of fights he could win.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the question ultimately becomes, how many more knockouts are you willing to risk to get to that point?
Well, other than that, the question is like, what is his goal as a fighter now? Because he's not going to be world champion of anything.
No,
he's not going to be the best fighter in any division.
That's the weird thing about Fedor too. I wonder what he's getting paid. I mean, he's already probably filthy rich, so I'm sure the money is not even.
Doesn't the money just go back to Russia and then Russia takes care of him? I think that's how it works.
Putin just takes all of his money.
I think so, dude. I think
and he lives. And he lives with Putin.
Yeah, he's Putin's neighbor. They're on the same property. He just has his own little guest house on. I don't know. I know Russia's a weird place, man. It's fucking crazy out there.
Yeah, I have a client who I train who's he's from Russia and he came here when he was like 18. He's an engineer. His name's Oleg.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him. He's from St. Petersburg, and I was asking him one time. I was like, "So you're from Russia?" He was like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "Oh, all right. So when did you come over here?" And he was like, "When I was 18." I was like, "Have you ever been back to go visit?" And he was all, "No." And I was like, "You don't? Oh, all right. You don't want to?" Or he's all, "No." He was like, shortest. He has zero desire to ever go back to Russia. He was like, awesome. It's not the nice place. That's all he said about it. Like pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's sounds very Russian. Yeah, so let's get back on this UFC. There's a lot of fights I want to talk about. So how about in the early prelims, Dennis Bermudez, T. Edwards.
Yeah.
Did you catch that one?
I watched highlights from it. I didn't.
Oh,
I wasn't
man.
able to watch it all the way through.
It was a great fight. It was first of all, I want to talk about T. Edwards for a minute. He looks like a miniature Abel Trujillo. You remember that guy?
Yeah.
I was
super
thinking
beefed up.
they kept calling him T, and I was like, T stands for testosterone because that guy is fucking. That guy is juiced. He looks fucking like it, and he is. He was just over physical with Dennis. He was pushing him around at first, and then Dennis just sort of like tapped into that inner fighter and took it to him, and it was just.
Dennis is pretty physical himself. I mean,
well, he is, but he's a little older.
He's not, but he's not testosterone Edwards physical.
Yeah, exactly.
He is a little older now too.
Yeah, he's. He retired in that fight.
Yeah, he retired. Yeah. I saw that.
So I thought that was a really beautiful like swan song performance because he fought hard to get that win. Like he fought. He didn't just like catch him slipping. Like he dug deep and pulled that performance out. It was a very exciting fight.
Let's talk about let's get past all this T. Edwards, Dennis Bermudez. Let's talk about the real fight of the night.
Oh God, I was wondering when you were going to bring that up
versus Rachel Ostovich.
First of all, I want to say a big factor in this fight was the walkout songs.
I don't even remember what they walked out to. What did they walk out to?
We had Ostovich walked out to "This Girl Is a Fighter."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then Paige Van Zant walked out to "No Sleep Till Brooklyn." So I thought that put Paige at an immediate advantage.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, what did you think about that fight?
I thought I was fighting off an erection the whole time.
It was quite. It was exactly as advertised. I would say it was quite scintillating.
They couldn't have produced that better on purpose.
Yeah, it was okay. Here's the thing, dude. When you get two girls that are that good looking, and then you have them get in the cage and fight, every grappling position that they get in, there's gonna be some kind of underlying
sexuality.
Yeah. I mean,
let's not put kid gloves on it.
Yeah, it would be like from a woman's perspective. All right, if you took fucking Brad Pitt in his prime and oiled him up and threw him in there with Chris Hemsworth and had him go at it, you don't think they're gonna fucking, I mean,
we're like, oh my god, yeah. So basically, for those of you who haven't seen the fight, watch it. But
I don't even think they have it on UFC.com. They probably just uploaded it to Pornhub.
Yeah, they just went straight to Pornhub. So Rachel Ostovich came out more as a wrestler. She was doing takedowns, and she was doing very good with her triangling posture, and she was shouldering down on Paige. And for those of you who don't know what that means, basically Rachel had her ass stuck up in the camera for like 3/4 of the fight. Like
seriously up in the camera.
Like seriously, like her legs were straight and her back was arched, and she just had her, it was just
like, it was to the point where if you hadn't had any kind of sexual contact, or if you had, let's just say if you hadn't been stimulated in quite some time, this may have stimulated you quite easily.
Yeah, and they're both banging hot, but let's not
I think Rachel Ostovich is way hotter.
That's what I was gonna say, but no, let's not beat around the bush here. Rachel Ostovich has that really curvy body. Like, I mean, if I was gonna stare at one of their asses, I would prefer Rachel Ostovich's.
Yeah.
Sure. So the fight was good. I think both of them showed skill. They both knew what they were doing.
I was actually really impressed with because you, like you said before, you couldn't really find anything about Rachel Ostovitz online.
Mm-hmm. There was very little.
I was, and her record wasn't like outstanding, so I was pretty skeptical about her abilities as a fighter. But I was actually pretty impressed with her in this fight. You actually
good performance.
Like I feel like if she keeps polishing her skills and really puts more time into it, I actually think she could end up being pretty good.
And against a well-established professional, high-level professional like Paige Van Zandt too. It's not like they just put her in there with somebody. Like Paige Van Zandt is a known professional. So
yeah.
Whereas Rachel Ostovich, this is the first time I've even fucking heard of her.
Right.
Which is a surprise when someone is that fucking good looking. They usually want to plaster them up everywhere and, you know, get attention because that's money to be made.
They'll still do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody won in that fight. They're still going to market the shit out of her. And
yeah. Well, they did like a whole expose on her abusive relationship she was in and everything. I didn't watch that, but I heard they made this big presentation about it and everything. So
did you see Aaron Pico get knocked out?
No, I didn't.
That was on the Fedor and
that was in Bellator?
Bellator card.
Yeah.
He got knocked out on the undercard, and you know, Aaron Pico is like one of the biggest prospects in MMA.
Yeah, Aaron Pico is like his name is everywhere. Like that's all anybody's talking about is Aaron Pico.
He got knocked out, like flatlined.
Really? Who did he fight?
What the fuck was this guy's name? Hispanic fellow. I don't remember the guy's name. Henry Corrales, I think. Yeah, I think his name was Henry Corrales.
So he got flatlined by some generic fighter. No, I'm just kidding.
You know, no, actually, the dude he fought had a pretty decent record. He actually, I think, is a pretty good fighter. But Pico just got it's crazy because Pico on paper has like all the skills in the world, you know, outstanding wrestler, boxer, he's got it all. But he's very, very reckless when he fights.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you see him train, he's super clean. Like his technique is really good. Mm-hmm. But the same thing was said about here's a guy I haven't seen fight in fucking forever, Rick Story. Yeah. You know, you see him hit mitts and it's like poetry. It's perfect. It's beautiful. But then he fights and he looks fucking semi-retarded.
Well, I think with some of these guys, it's just I don't know. What is it? You tell us because you've had more experience doing it.
I can absolutely relate in the sense that when you're training, you have a lot more control over your environment. You're more familiar with everything. You don't have an audience watching. You don't have external factors. It feels like you're performing under perfect circumstances.
Yeah. And you know all your training partners and you know what to expect out of them.
Exactly. Not knowing what your opponent is going to do just kind of puts you in fucking open space.
You're already kind of hyper vigilant and maybe more susceptible to doing things you wouldn't ordinarily do.
Absolutely. And things get very I describe it as slippery. Mm-hmm. It feels slippery. Your grip feels slippery. Your feet feel slippery. Everything you're doing feels a little bit off balance when you're actually competing. Right. Because everything's a little bit shifted to the left. You have an audience watching. There's noise, there's lights. Mm-hmm. There are consequences for failure. In the gym, you fuck up, you do it again. You fuck up, you do it again. You fuck up, you do it again until you get it right. And then you get it right, and then you do it again. And then you do it again. You do it again. You get to do it once in the fight. Mm-hmm. And if you fuck up, fight's over.
Right.
Have fun dealing with that for the next, 6 weeks to 6 months till your next fight.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's not very forgiving.
Yeah. So
it's like Eminem in 8 Mile. You got one chance, one opportunity.
It does. It feels very much like that. It feels very much like when you're about to compete. It's like I'm never nervous about getting beaten up. The crowd doesn't really make me nervous. Of course, it affects you. But I don't get nervous from the crowd. The only thing that gives me any nerves is like, man, I don't want to fuck this up and not have another fight for so long. Like my last fight was me fucking this up.
Yeah, and that's kind of the most fascinating thing to me about that's the most fascinating thing about any kind of, whether it's MMA or whatever, any kind of performance sport. The most fascinating thing is a lot of times the people that do the best at it aren't even necessarily like the best athletes or the best anything.
Yeah.
They just respond the best under pressure.
Right.
Simply. I mean, that's plain and simple.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Talent for responding to pressure.
The best skill you can have as a fighter is adaptability.
Right.
Everything else comes secondary to that. Being in a position and knowing what to do, or just being able to make a decision most of the time. Not even necessarily making the right decision, but being able, just not freezing. Because that's what fucks people up in fights, is like, we have split seconds that we got to do something. And people get torn between like, I should do this or this. Like, just do something. I can move. Like,
it's almost like, it's kind of like, it was funny. I was writing a paper for my English class the other day. And one of the questions they asked us was, they asked us about like writer's block, basically. And what I said was one of the things that one of the easiest ways to get into the flow of writing is just to write, even if it's dog shit and it's horrible. Like, you just got to put something down. But it's almost the same for literally anything in the world. Like, whether it's fighting, and I compared it to even drawing too. Like, a lot of times if I'm getting ready to do some art, I might not be in the mood for drawing at all. And I just feel off and everything just feels shitty. After you do like 20 minutes of sketching exercises, eventually you just start to go.
Yeah. You know? It's the same thing with like exercise, warming up. You wake up, you don't feel like working out, and then you just make yourself move around a little bit, do a little jump rope, stretch, and then that tension starts to build, and you go like, all right, I should start pressuring this a little bit, going a little harder. I always feel like when I go for my runs, I'm always like, man, I don't want to fucking run right now. And then I start moving, and then I start going like, I should pace.
Yeah. The first like 10 or 15 minutes is the worst.
Yeah.
Because you just
don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then once you're like 30 minutes in, you're like, all right,
you get into a full flow.
I can go harder.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I never feel like doing it until I'm like going.
I know. And you think at some point, because I'll have, people will ask that, like, oh, does it ever get easy? Or it's like, no, like I haven't missed a day of exercise since I was like a teenager. That's not true. I've missed a day, but I consistently exercise since I was a teenager. And no matter what, every day you still have that little voice in the back of your head telling you like, fuck, like you don't want to do, but you just know that the alternative is that voice coming back before you're going to bed at night telling you piece of shit, you didn't know what you were supposed to do.
Why'd you listen to me, bitch?
And I would way rather deal with the voice earlier in the day and crush that voice, and then not have to deal with that voice later on.
You're like One Punch Man. You know?
Exactly.
You just don't listen to the voice. So hey,
I do.
You can miss a day.
What does One Punch
never
Man
miss a day
routine? He does like 100 squats, 100 push-ups, and a 5-kilometer run. No matter what.
That's not even really intense. That's like average.
I love that. We have to do, because that's like One Punch Man is one of the few new animes that I've watched that I absolutely fell in love with. Like, I fucking love it.
I've watched it a couple times.
And we need to do a full like breakdown of One Punch Man.
Have you seen the bonus episodes?
No, I don't think so.
There's like, I think there's like 10 of them, and they're all like, there's only like one fight in them. Or there's like one villain in them, but they're all like silly shit. Like one of the episodes is about them trying to get to make a hot pot, and like but the sales are at different stores, and they're trying to figure out how to get all the stuff.
Oh, I think I have. I have seen this. Then I remember this.
Yeah,
I have seen that.
Yeah, there's like it's all weird, random shit like that.
Interesting because it's like legitimately funny. Like it's like laugh out loud funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys haven't seen One Punch Man, highest of recommendations.
Oh yeah, it's as far as animes go,
it's the funniest anime I've ever watched. I don't think I've watched an anime that made me laugh harder. There's been other like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that have had moments spread
School Rumble
just as hard, but One Punch Man is like a full-blown comedy. It's so consistently funny on every episode.
Yeah, it is. Did you ever see School Rumble?
No.
That show's pretty funny.
No,
it's like way silly, and it's like it's pretty girly, but it's really funny.
I'll have to check that out.
It's a pure comedy, and it's pretty old too, so it has like a lot of dated level comedy, but it's good. So where are we at with the fights?
Well, coming up this weekend, we've got Rafael Asunciao versus the fuck's that dude? Why am I forgetting his name? The guy from the PFL or the World Series of Fighting, Marlon Moraes. Those two are fighting. Marlon Moraes has looked really fucking good lately. And then they've got Jose Aldo versus Brandon Moicano.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I'm gonna make a bold for these two fights. I'm gonna pick Moraes for the main event because he's looked really fucking good. He's just been on fire. And I'm gonna make a bold prediction. I'm gonna go Brandon Moicano versus Jose Aldo. Okay. That Moicano dude is really, really fucking good.
I haven't seen him yet.
Well known, but goddamn, is that guy good?
He's been in the UFC long? Because I haven't seen him.
He's been there. Let me look up his record right now because I've seen him fight a couple times.
Yeah, it says he's 13-1-1, but
he's been in I want to say he's been in the UFC for maybe like 3 years now. Let me look it up right now. Renato Moicano, UFC Fight Night 144. So he's 29 years old. Let's see. His first UFC fight was in December of 2014. So he's been there for about 4 years.
Okay.
His only loss was a submission loss to Brian Ortega in 2017.
Naturally. All right.
Yeah, but this is what was so impressive to me. His last fight, he rear naked choked Cub Swanson. Not only did he rear naked choke Cub Swanson, he fucked him up on the feet before he hit him with that choke. Before that, he beat Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar is one of those dudes who he's not like the best guy ever, but he's actually a really solid fighter that not that many people know about. Calvin Kattar only has a couple losses on his record.
I've seen Calvin Kattar. I'm trying to remember who he is.
He's not like, he doesn't do any one thing that stands out greatly, but he's a very solid, well-rounded fighter. Moicano also got a split decision over Jeremy Stevens. Those are his most notable wins. But dude, this guy is good. Even in his fight with Brian Ortega, before Ortega got that submission, Ortega ended it in round 3 minutes 29 seconds in. And Moicano was well on his way to winning that fight. He was beating Brian Ortega, I think 2-0 going into that.
Right on.
I don't know. I like Moicano in this fight. I think he's a little taller. He's 5'11", featherweight. He's a little rangier, and I just think he's going to give Aldo some problems at this stage of Aldo's career.
That was cool.
What was that? Was that a missile launching in the background?
Yeah, definitely a missile launching.
I just got a boner. That's what that sound was.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I farted.
Sorry. It happens.
That was fucking dope. So I don't know a lot about Renato Moicano. I haven't seen him fight. I may have seen him fight, but I don't remember.
You should, before this weekend, you should go and watch some. I actually think you would really like his fighting style.
Well, yeah, I'll check him out for sure. But what I was going to say is from what I know, this fight really depends on what Jose Aldo shows up. Like, Jose Aldo has shown glimpses of his former self in recent fights. Not really full blown the terrorizing destroyer that he once was. He just tore through people like fucking tissue paper.
Right.
But he he's showing elements of that.
Yeah,
So-
well, in his last fight he beat Jeremy Stevens in his last fight.
Yeah.
But before that, he had those 2 vicious TKOs losses to Max Holloway. Kind of crazy too. I never noticed this. 2 TKOs to Max Holloway within the same year, 2017. Round 3. The first TKO was at 4:13 of round 3. The second TKO was at
3:14. No.
The second TKO was at 4:51 of round 3. So almost like identical losses. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, as I recall, though, the second one was a lot more.
It was more definitive.
Like,
he really fucking just laid it down on him.
Yeah.
Second one.
Right. Man, that Max Holloway is a fucking.
I think when you're a style of fighter that Jose Aldo is, which is crazy too, because he's only 32. But I think Jose Aldo is so explosive, and he's so fast twitch that I think earlier in his career it was really easy for him to beat a lot of guys, even though he was very strategic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was really easy for him to win a lot of fights just based off the fact that he was so much more athletic and physically imposing than his opponents. And I think for that style of fighter, when they start to get a little older and they slow down a bit, it's tough to maintain that.
It's absolutely true. I mean, he's getting older. He's 32. Your body's changing. You're not playing a young man's game anymore. You're grown, and you have to adapt and learn a new way to fight. And those changes can be subtle. They can potentially not even look different to a person watching, but he's got to make the adjustments to himself to be the best fighter that he could be currently.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Other than that,
Damian Maia, but Damian Maia is fighting he's fighting Lyman Good.
Who's he fighting?
Lyman Good.
Yeah, Lyman Good, I think, was from Bellator, wasn't he?
I know the name Lyman Good. I've seen him before. All these guys on this card, aside from Charles Oliveira and Rafael Asunciao and Jose Aldo, they're all guys that like I've heard their names. I kind of know who they are. I've seen them fight, but I haven't followed them closely.
Lyman did fight for Bellator. I remember him from there.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was even maybe tried out for the Ultimate Fighter at one point. I'm pretty sure. Might be
why not?
else I'm thinking of.
Lyman Good is a pretty distinct name. Like, I don't know. I don't know a lot of Lymans.
You know what fight is interesting? Charles Oliveira versus David Teemer.
Mm-hmm.
David Teemer has got some really high-level kickboxing.
And Charles Oliveira has some nasty submissions.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Like he's one of those wiry motherfuckers that like it looks strong. Like he's super skinny, but when he grabs people, it looks like
he's like a boa
cuts them down. Yeah,
he's strong in a very odd way.
Yeah, I love seeing that. Like those grapplers who are just wiry, skinny, like snake-like monsters that just wrap people up, and they're just like, no.
It's fascinating to me because it's such a different application of strength. You know, it just really puts things into perspective as far as like what it means to be strong.
Right.
Like Oliveira probably couldn't bench press or squat my dong, but when he wraps his arms around you, you're not getting him off of you.
No, he's a filthy grappler. Man, having done as much training and grappling as I have, you come across guys like that. Sometimes you just look at him, you're like, that guy doesn't look that strong. And then they get those fucking grips on you, and it's like, oh, he's one of those things.
He looks like he would be one of those guys who would be uncomfortable to grapple with.
Right.
You know those guys? Because there was guys like that. Like when we would train with Travis, I hated grappling with Travis.
Dude, me too. Travis would like every time you touched him, he was all elbows. That's what I would always.
Oh yeah, you felt like you were grappling with a bag of wrenches. He wasn't even necessarily his forte. Wasn't grappling. You know, Travis was a good like karate guy.
Yeah, Travis was really good at stand-ups. He was really good at like. He was good at getting Yeah, he was good at getting like hit down and
he was
fucking basing back up.
Yeah, but because he was good at that, when you're on top of him holding him down, and you feel like every time he pushes up against you, you're getting whacked with a fucking mallet. It's very
I always say
it's not fun.
Yeah, I would always say that he felt like you were grappling with a pile of glass, like pile of broken glass.
Yeah,
it was just like everything's just sharp and hard, and it's just slicing into you, and he's just constantly cross-facing you, and
I don't like it. I want some dough on what I'm grappling with. All right. I want to grapple with a bag of flour.
Yeah, I'll grapple with a big old fucking strong motherfucker all day. I hate grappling those bony motherfuckers. They're just like stabbing you with their elbows and knees, and their shins are all pressed into you, and it's gross and uncomfortable.
I want to grapple with a baguette.
A baguette. Baguettes are hard though.
Okay, you're right. Maybe a soft
Wonder bread.
Wonder bread. Piece of white Wonder bread. That's what I want.
Just a nice doughy, uncooked Wonder bread.
Yeah.
Just a loaf of Wonder dough. Is Wonder bread ever dough, or does it just come out of the mix like that?
I don't know what Wonder bread is. I think what it is, the Elmer's glue factory has residual glue that kind of hangs on to some of their machinery, and then they scrape it off, and then they form it into a bread patty.
And once they leave it out overnight, it hardens enough to be Wonder bread.
Yeah, and then they take the in a cow factory, they take the leftover, not the actual testicles, that's too high quality. They take the actual scrotal meat, and that's how you get a piece of bologna. They just flatten it out. They throw that in the Elmer's glue Wonder bread.
Just got
yourself a bologna sandwich.
Oh man! So you got Elmer's glue and really low grade scrotum. Really
low grade scrotum. This isn't bull scrotum, all right? This isn't a thick. You could take a bull scrotum and make a Crocodile Dundee hat out of that. They're taking low grade scrotum.
Low grade scrotum. Where do you get low grade scrotum from? I wonder. You gotta go somewhere bad. Like
Santa Maria.
Santa Maria's got high grade scrotum. Santa Maria is known for their scrotum. The scrotum barbecues are off the chain in Santa Maria.
If there's any place in the world where they could barbecue a good scrotum, a bad scrotum, and make it good, it would be Santa Maria.
Okay, throw a little Susie Q on that scrotum.
Yeah.
Grill it up just right, medium rare.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I could see it. What else do we got going on? Johnny Walker is fighting Justin Ledet.
Have you seen Johnny Walker fight?
It's very exciting.
Holy bejesus. That guy is violent as fuck.
Yeah.
Did you see him knock out we might have talked about this on here, but that knockout that he had, I think he fought Khalil Roundtree in his last fight.
Refresh my memory.
Johnny Walker fought Khalil Roundtree on the it was the UFC Chile card, I think. It was the same card where Santiago Ponzinibbio beat what's his face? Neil Magny. I think it was that same card. And Johnny Walker knocked out Khalil Roundtree with a standing elbow. Like he literally grabbed the back of his head and just fucking drove his elbow into his skull, and it was the most violent thud. It sounded like a baseball bat.
I honestly think that might be my. I think standing elbows are my favorite kind of knockout. There's something so satisfying about it. Like just
you don't see them very often. So they're super fucking cool looking. Yeah, it was that same card. Yeah, KO standing elbow. Yeah, you don't see them very often, and they are
they're so brutally effective,
effective, and they're just ruthlessly violent looking.
There's something so ruthless about elbow. I don't know what it is. They're just so intense.
You see a guy get knocked out with one of those, and you just feel.
And I'm not even talking about like flashy elbows, like spinning elbows or the.
No, you're talking.
I'm talking just straight up boom.
Yeah, the Muay Thai style.
Bunsock. Boom.
Yep.
Side
Yeah,
elbow.
no, that's a different kind of elbow. That's not like that. We're not talking about the Yair Rodriguez versus Chance Young elbow. This is a whole different deal because it really does sound like a baseball bat. I mean, that's basically what it is. You've got a bone that's roughly not quite the size of a baseball bat, but close, just going right across your face.
It's your lead pipe, just boom. That's why I really liked Kenny Florian because he threw a lot of standing elbows. Remember when he ripped Alex Karalexis' face in half?
Yeah, Kenny Florian, and this isn't even to sound like insulting. Kenny Florian was like Muay Thai light. Like he wasn't quite like full blown like pro level Muay Thai, but he was way more competent in Muay Thai than anybody else that he fought.
He had some of the highest Muay Thai specific skills in UFC in his time. Like he was super, super unphysical. That was his biggest weakness. But he was so good that he fucked people up a lot of the time that should have overwhelmed him.
Yeah,
remember
you're right. That was his biggest weakness because
dude, remember when Clay Guida was just this guy, nobody could stop him. Like he wasn't like the best fighter, but he was just so physical that he was driving through people. He had the best chin, and then Kenny Florian just rolled and knocked him the fuck out.
Yeah, and then
he just
remember he gave that post-fight speech, and he was like, "I finish fights."
Yeah,
and like Kenny Florian, as good of a fighter as he was so unintimidating. And Florian trying to cut a promo is just hilarious till this day. But
my favorite thing is how he looked exactly like Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
He looked so much like Ben Stiller that they had a promo where they had him reading Zoolander lines, but he's just not funny.
No.
Like you want him to be funny, but he just isn't. He doesn't have that kind of personality.
Yeah, and it's actually very true what you said about him not being very physical, because if you actually look at Kenny Florian's record, all of his biggest career losses were against guys who basically were just able to out-physical him.
Yeah, that was definitely his biggest weakness. That was the thing he had the most trouble with. But the way he fights, like, honestly, if you have any interest in, like, in the art and the skills involved in being a good fighter, follow the career of Kenny Florian. Watch the way that guy fights. Watch the way
he was one of the first. He was one of the first high IQ fighters, I think.
Right. Super high IQ fighter.
He was that season of Ultimate Fighter he competed on was the 185 season.
Yeah, he was pretty fat.
Yeah, he was competing against some bigger dudes.
Mm-hmm. That was a good season too.
Mm-hmm.
That was the season Joe Daddy. Mm-hmm. Right, and
was Joe Daddy 185 on that season?
I think so.
Or was he light? Was it like a double season where they had lightweights?
I think it was because I remember everyone being fat on that. They had all these lighter weight guys that like gained weight to be on that.
I think you're right. I think they just had a bunch of dudes. Like everybody would go on to it's kind of a trip, right?
Yeah.
None of them. It was a middleweight season, but nobody was actually a middleweight.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a good season. Should go back and watch that. Just watch the fights.
Yeah.
All right. So what else do we got? So that's about it for notable things going on in. Let me see what's on the prelims for 144.
Those are probably going to be some weak prelims.
Thiago Alves
card. So they probably have a bunch of like local dudes on there.
Yeah, not a lot of known names, but Thiago Alves is fighting.
Oh yeah, that's right. Who's he fighting again?
Max Griffin.
Yeah, that guy's actually pretty decent. I think that guy beat Mike Perry.
Did he?
Yeah.
Let's go look at this Max Griffin character. I don't know him. When I click on Max Griffin, it brings up pictures of Thiago Alves.
Max Griffin is not very Wikipedia-able.
No, not Wikipediaized. He's from Santa Barbara.
Oh, is he really? Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Huh. I didn't know that.
We might have grown up with him. Yeah, so that's that. as far as the next fights coming up, I think we've talked about most of these already when we did our little thing that, Francis Ngannou, Cain Velasquez, Paul Felder and James Vick. It's nice to see Paul Felder coming back. I like the way he fights a lot. Let's see. Yeah,
James
well,
Vick got fucked up in his last fight against what's his face, Justin Gaethje.
did he?
Yeah,
When was that?
destroyed him.
When was that one? I feel like I watched that, but it was a while ago.
3 months ago, 4 months ago. It wasn't a part of like a bigger card. I think it was the headline on like Fight Night.
Yeah, Justin Gaethje's got some nice ugly striking. Like he just fucking damages you. Like
what's crazy?
I like how he breaks your body. Like you're going in to get your fucking legs and your body smashed up when you're fighting Gaethje.
You know what's crazy about Gaethje too is the fact that he comes from like a very high level wrestling background. He's like an All-American, and he never wrestles anybody. I don't think I've ever seen that dude shoot for a takedown.
Right.
He just comes out and he just throws bombs.
Speaking of high level wrestling, let's get back to the card that we just saw and talk about Gillespie. We didn't really talk about that fight much.
Oh, that's right. We didn't talk about Gillespie, did we?
No, we didn't.
Huh, okay.
So Gregor Gillespie really showed off that high level wrestling.
Yeah.
He only took one punch in the entire fight. Yancy Medeiros got completely shut down. And Gregor Gillespie he just showed complete fucking dominance in that fight. He just crushed him.
I think we pre-reviewed this card and we were talking about Gillespie.
We did.
And that was one of those fights where going into it, when I envisioned it in my mind's eye, I just could not see
Medeiros
winning.
Yeah.
I mean, Gillespie is just so fucking – his control is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Gillespie is like – he's got like Khabib-level wrestling. He's really fucking good. I don't know if he's got Khabib MMA game.
I think Khabib has more ferocity.
Yeah.
Gillespie,
like Khabib has got more ground and pound, better overall MMA game, but control wise, Gillespie is just a fucking absolute savage.
Yeah, he is. And I think one of the things that's going to hold Gillespie back is
too much fishing.
No, not his fishing. God bless his fishing. I think he's just not that likable. You hear him talk, like his interviews.
Yeah, it was a very odd post.
Yeah.
Which was weird too because
he's way too on the spot analytical. He's like, no, trust me, everyone, listen here. Let me just come on.
It was strange, which is weird too because I think he has like a pretty decent like social media following just from all of his fishing stuff.
Right.
But it was a strange post fight speech. It was
he may just be like a little bit Asperger-y or something.
I was gonna say he comes off a little crazy. I think, but I don't know. Maybe they could market that. That might be marked. He's different, that's for sure.
For sure,
the way he acts, it's like he's out there.
Yeah, he's very it's like he's not like. He's not responding to the crowd and in the sense of like getting them hyped up or anything. He's just
gonna say,
he's like explaining to them. He's like, listen here, guys.
In a lot of ways, I actually kind of liked what it was almost like a teacher trying to like teach children.
Right.
Which that's essentially what you have with a giant MMA crowd. You have a bunch of children who are like, they want to see violence. And he was like, now I know you didn't get the violence you want, but this is why.
Let me just tell you. Yeah,
and he did finish him at least. He did end up finishing him. So
he was right. He had a good violent finish. He just beat the shit out of him. He fucking beat a hole into the ground with Medeiros' face.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like for the first 8 minutes of the fight, he didn't touch him aside from wrestling. But he's absolutely right. It was a good strategy. He just broke him down. He just crushed him into submission. And then when he was just laying there like defeated, he was like, all right, now I'm just going to pound your head in. And he did.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that sort of communication with the audience is going to be popular.
No, definitely not. The audience wants to see, fuck, man. People these days, they want to see fucking
light shows and
yeah.
fucking and
I don't
bombs.
even know what they want to see anymore. I don't know what's what.
They just want to see Nicki Minaj fighting Beyonce with laser lights behind them and
yeah.
Iron Man flying around in the rafters. That's it. That's all people want to see.
They want to see the UFC Infinity War. Or like maybe they give Brock Lesnar the gauntlet and you have to somehow get it from him.
They're gonna dress DC as Captain America, so he's gonna have like his belly sticking out of the spandex, and he's gonna be grabbing the gauntlet like no.
Actually, John Jones would be Thanos because he's by far the most unlikable.
That's
person,
unlikable and unstoppable at the same time. I think if that's the case, maybe Gustafsson would be Captain America then. Yeah, be really off-putting at Swedish, right? Swedish or Swiss? I always get that mixed up.
Aren't they both the same?
Is that?
I think they're the same. I thought Sweden.
Swiss is Switzerland. Sweden is Swedish.
Oh.
So whichever one he is.
They're basically the same, though. It's kind of like Persian.
They look the same.
It's like Iranian and Armenian. Yeah. They look the same.
They look the same. Their languages sound the same. In relation to where we are, they're basically the same direction. I don't know what they are, but that's enough for our racism for today. Anyway, I still like the idea of him being Captain America. I think that's really funny.
Yeah, they should do that.
So we'll have Marvel themed UFC fights from now on. That'll be the thing. I like it.
Together like a UFC Avengers team. We could do a lot of things with that, I feel like.
We could. And we will. We'll have sets where they fight instead of cages. We'll have like actual environments that look like, we'll have like an airfield or something.
That would be, they could do like old school Mortal Kombat where there's all kinds of random shit going on.
There'll be like a garbage can with a fire and a crashed jet turned over. Like,
speaking of, actually this isn't speaking to anything, but did you see that haggard ass UFC belt? That new belt is so ugly. Have you seen it?
It looks like, it looks like nice, like it's made of good material, but it looks ugly. So I agree. Like it looks cheap. Like they're trying to do something new with it. It looks cheap. I don't think it looks cheap. I think it looks well constructed. It just looks
the design. Here's what I meant when I said cheap. The design, the quality of the design is so bad. It looks like they hired a really fucking awful graphic designer to do it.
I could see that.
I mean, like, it's ugly as fuck.
Yeah,
like I've belt before.
I forgot till you brought it up that they got the new belt. Like that they got a new. Like, why bother redesigning the belt? I mean, it's a belt. Yeah, it's a classical look. You don't want to have like a futuristic looking championship belt. A belt is like a championship belt is like a timeless symbol.
Who told them that looked good? They need to be fired. Like, who in their fucking right mind said, oh, yeah, this looks good? Like, it looks so fucking awful.
How dare you? Dana White himself designed that belt, approved of it.
Dana White doesn't know what he's doing anymore.
I don't know. Like, I don't know who. I made that up. I don't know who did that.
No, it wouldn't surprise me if he did.
Dana White just drew it up on a napkin and he was like, perfect.
Looks like he had one of his kids draw it. Man.
Yeah,
so I think we've pretty much squeezed all the juice out of the fight.
We have.
I think it's time we transition.
Transition away. Are we going to continue on this one, or did you want to close out?
What do you think? Would it be easier to close out and then start up again, or?
Yeah, we'll provide 2 episodes today, guys. So thanks for tuning in to the recap episode of UFC Fight Night 143, live from ESPN Plus app. I'm a big fan of the ESPN Plus app. I used it to watch this fight, and it's actually pretty fucking convenient. You can get it on your fucking TV, on your phone, on your fucking iPad, whatever you want. And it's only like $4.99 a month. Fucking do it. All the fights that they're going to post on there, fucking get that shit. I did.
I agree.
Yeah, this is fun. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a share, and get out of my fucking life. All right. Love you guys.
Peace out.